Tomorrow we have a what? It's a test with derivatives that sometimes are hard to match. Or even hard to do. Sometimes even hard to read. So therefore, you need as much time as possible. What am I saying? Come in at 12:45. You can start the test at 12:50. You will have the same exact extra 15 minutes that period 1, if people are there on time. If you come in later, the extra time? No. If you're like, I have nothing to do during period 7, I can take all period 7 long. Nope, sorry, too bad. I have to keep it fair. So if you want extra time, when do you come in? 12:45 to take the test at 12:50. Let's go over really quickly. You do walkthroughs of games. You do walkthroughs of cross-country meets. Blah, 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 blah. So let's do a walkthrough of tomorrow. When you walk in the door, you're about to take your test. What should you do first? Leave your phone. Number 2, you walk in. What should you be turning in? Almost right away. You have them right here. Go put in your notes one pile, put the homework spirals other pile. Notes first, homework spirals, it'll be labeled on the board. Then what? Okay, going over to my desk. Wait, you don't have to go to your desk. Spread around the room. You're not supposed to be directly next to or in front of anyone. Go diagonally all over the place. Okay, what are you supposed to have out? Pencil, some sort of way of erasing, hopefully. A blank piece of paper for scratch work. If you want, that's optional, but I would advise. You guys know that derivatives don't always work out well the first time, right? Get a blank scratch piece of paper and a cover sheet. 0 period sheet, tutoring form, etc. Calculator needs to stay under your desk. Just don't even bring it in the room because there is no possibility of you using it tomorrow. Okay. Blank piece of paper, scratch paper, pencil and eraser. Everything else and get ready to go. Questions on logistics as far as being ready for class tomorrow. Period 1 people, what time do you get to come in? 5, starting. Good. Exact same directions otherwise. When, in Google Classroom, when was your review due? When was your review due? This morning, because we have to go over questions now and see how you did, right? Did not have to write directions or problems, but hopefully you worked your way through. Did you check out the quick answer key if you needed it? I mean, a lot of this is on CalcChat too, but are there any evens? Actually, I don't think there were. Oh well, it was a nice place to go find the answers if you guys needed them. However, what's going to be more helpful as far as in Google Classroom? The bonus practice test, which is due tomorrow by 7 a.m. I'm giving you extra time up until you start your test. I'm giving period 1 the same gracious allowance until, what, 12:45 or 1. But why am I showing this to you? You already have this. I printed it out for you. What's the big deal? Oh, just wait. Right? The answer key is right after it for you guys to check. If we have time, we will go over questions that you guys have on the practice test. But for right now, it's time for us to peek at the review. It's time for us to peek at the review. I have the book open. I have the book ready for us to look at. Page 204. We're going to go over as many questions as possible on the review and then on the practice test. Real quick, what are the hints that I've already given you as far as the long answers tomorrow? Limit definition. You don't have to simplify. You can stick it to the man. So maybe a messy derivative with like a chain rule going on. But where you still have to show your work or just perfect. Ugh. Without any work, because if you don't have, I can't give you partial credit on any. Like FGH or FUV and showing me if you don't write any of that, you better have it right. Did I give you any as far as motion? That's a great number 10. Don't worry, you didn't give me an idea I didn't already have. I'm just being gracious by saying, oh, that's a good idea. Okay. But for the rest of the test, what's the point? Making it match. So here's the struggle. Could you have a variation of the right answer and still choose the wrong multiple choice? Okay. So we're going to try to work today not just on getting a right answer, which is very, very, very good for long answer problems. Not the right answer, but making it match. Match with what? The answer key. So here we go, the review. Where'd you guys get stuck? Where'd you guys get lost? Where do you want a little bit of clarification or explanation as to why the answer is what it is? Go. Anything before 15? 15 is the earliest? Really? You guys are fine with the definition of derivative? You scare me just a little bit. All right. And my computer doesn't work. Hi, guys. I'm going to have you guys go along with us as far as the review right now. I should have work at the end of class, and that's when we'll take our quiz, okay? Sorry, what? Hannah, 15? Cool. What were the directions in 15? Good, aka find derivative, right? Which derivative? Which one? What am I saying? No, you're not understanding my question. Which derivative? Not of what? Which derivative? The first derivative. Couldn't I ask tomorrow for a second or a third or a fourth or a fifth? Okay. The first derivative. H prime of x, I'm guessing, yeah? Okay. Hannah, how do you rewrite this guy? Wait, rewrite. That's not a derivative yet, right? I wrote it wrong. Okay. So rewriting 6x to the good plus 3x to the good. So then when I go to do the derivative, basic power rule, I'm going to have 6 times 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 plus 3 times 1/3 x to the negative 2/3, right? 1/3 minus 3/3. Am I right? Yes. I could box it and be done. It's a long answer, but it's not going to be, if it's there, or anything similar. So we're going to have to make it match. Does it make sense that for my brain, and probably yours also, this is a much better representation of all of that? And then this one, oh, the 3/3, is a much better representation. Remember, negative puts that expression in the denominator. The 2 means it's an x squared. The over 3 means it's a cubed root. Now, could we need to get a common denominator? Sometimes, but in this one, you'd have to multiply by him, which wouldn't go together, and multiply by him, which would go together. I bet they wouldn't want you going much beyond that. Okay, now, I know we had other questions, so what's the next closest one? Oh, go ahead, Jaden. If it's a long answer, you're totally fine if you stop here. The problem is this wouldn't be a long answer. So the question isn't so much could you write it by hand and make it pretty, but could you realize this is the right answer if that's what you put? Does that make sense? Okay. Can you make it match? Abby, what's one you have? 17? Number 17, what's weird? What's different? Oh, rewrite. It's all about the rewrite. At least that's my guess. Because how can we rewrite 2/3 squared? Question. 2/3 is just a constant, right, guys? So then what do you do with it? I know, it's a common mistake. Rewriting, only the t gets the -2. It's not a chain rule. 2/3 is the coefficient. You could even think about this. It helps your brain just a little bit. It's like 2/3 times 1/t squared. So only the t gets the -2. Now do power rule. And you'll be okay. Is that good? Okay. What else do we have? 29? Anything before 29? Okay. So for number 29, for some reason my little hand thingy isn't working today. Ooh, look at you guys asking a motion problem. Motion, kind of like what we might have on the long answer of tomorrow's test problem. Okay. What? Shockers. Where are we at? What part are we asking for 29? Can I ask that? All of it? The whole shabam? Okay. I'm not going to take a long time on it. You guys do have the answer key that you can also look at. I'm going to go ahead and say, according to the given information, I can say that the formula for who's S again? Oh, they told me. Position. The initial velocity, they told me also, so I'm going to plug that in. Building. So when it says determine the position and velocity functions for the ball, well, plugging in got me position. Go team. How do I find velocity from position? Take the derivative of it. Good. So negative 32t minus 30. I have my velocity. That's letter A. Letter B. Average velocity from card number 10. It's a formula. How do I find average velocity? Okay, pause. Who is B? Later time. Earlier in the alphabet, later in the alphabet. So S of 3 minus S of 1. All over S of B minus S of A. B minus A. So how do I do this of thing in math? Plug it in, plug it in. Now, if this is a long answer, it would be super tedious and super annoying, but depending on whether or not you want to really, really, really stick it to me, aka the man, aka the future AP guys, couldn't you do negative 16 times 3 squared minus 30 times 3 plus 600 minus, right? And then keep on going, and then do your over 3 minus 1? Yes. Is that valid? Yes. Just don't stop writing. You hopefully have more space on your paper. But for the sake of you being able to check it in the back of the book, this isn't going to cut it. You are going to have to go farther than that. So you have to do something like 3 squared is 9. 9 and 16 is 144. Someone back me up on that. Minus 3 times 30 is 90 plus 600. And we have minus, if you plug in 1, it's negative 16 minus 46 plus 600 would be 550, what did I say, 46? 554? Hold on, is anyone backing me up? Negative 16 minus 30 is negative 46, and negative 46 from 600. Okay. And then we'd have to go ahead and do some yuckiness. That'd be negative 234. You guys don't need me to do addition and subtraction up here. Do you know how to do average velocity? Okay, cool. How about letter C? Instantaneous. How do you do instantaneous velocity? Plug it into the derivative, which we already have. So couldn't we just find v of 1 and find v of 3? Pause. Tomorrow, if I ask you things like find the velocity or find the position or find the acceleration, what else am I going to want besides a number? The units. So what's going to be the units of this plugging in 1, negative 62 velocity? Feet per second. Think of speed in your car as miles per hour, position per time. So feet per second. And then plugging in 3 would end up being negative 96, negative 126. Did anybody already do that? Cool. What's letter D asking? Ooh, hit the ground. They didn't say hit the ground, reach ground level. What's it mean? What's 0? Yes, the position, it's on the ground. It's not off the ground. The only thing we know is that S of t is equal to 0. So couldn't we go ahead and, for letter D, take our original S and say, hey, u equals 0. Oh, by the way, let's pull out a, what can we pull out, a 2? A 4? 2. Pull out a negative 2. And we have an 8 plus 15t minus 300. Is that going to be fun? Nope. But is it solvable? Yes. By hand? Possibly. Has to be numbers that are kind of close together. 8 and 10 and 30? Nope. It needs to be closer together than that. Oh, so this is it's an acknowledged difficult problem. Okay. Meaning this, if I give you one tomorrow, it would be something that is factorable where you wouldn't have needed your graphing calculator. That's why you aren't allowed to have it. So yeah, graphing calculator, how do you find the zeros of a function? You graph it and use the 0 feature. Dun, 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 dun. Choose the positive one. Okay, so letter E. What's the velocity of the ball at impact? Impact? What's going on if it's impacting? It's splatting on the ground. So that, well, the ball doesn't splat, probably. But aren't we going to have found a time up here when you solve? A positive time? What you going to do with that? What you going to do when they come for you? Plug in. So when you find the time from your graphing calculator, the positive x-intercept, not the negative one, plug it into velocity and label it with feet per second. If you guys want, remember I just said there's that answer key in your Google Classroom. I'm going over to that number 29 because some of you maybe didn't grade it. I don't know why, but there you go. T ended up being 5.258. Always leave 3 decimals. Plug that into velocity and you get negative 198.300. There you go. What else do we got? Which one? Okay, anything before 41? Anything else before 41? Guys, if you're bored, be working on that practice test. If you're doubly bored, be making yourself your own derivative problems. You can check it with Wolfram Alpha tonight. I don't know. I'm just trying to reach out to anybody, everybody. Okay. What do you do with this guy? Yeah, you gotta do product rule, right? It's 4x times e to the x, but wouldn't the easiest product rule be grouping the 4 with the x? So then dy dx, you guys tell me, how does product rule work? Second, d plus d. Do you know your forever cards? Because if you don't, tomorrow's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, and it's going to be your own fault. It might be painful anyway, but you got to know your rules, right? Derivative of cotangent. Negative cosecant squared of x. Negative cosecant squared of x. Box it. Yeah, if it was a long answer. Will it be? Probably not. There's no chain rule. Why would I do a long answer on that? Anyway, how could they write it? I mean, I suppose that, well, I'm almost definite that they would have made that a plus cosecant squared. They could also look at similar. They could technically pull out, kind of like grouping, pull out just a little bit. They could do that if they wanted to. The question is, could you make it match? I hope so. Huh? Oh. But guys, here's a quick, because Abby was like, I didn't think to pull out the 4e to the x. I'm guessing this is what the back of the book did. Couldn't you not just try to go forwards to answers, but you guys have taken multiple choice before. Couldn't you also work backwards? If you have this, couldn't you be like, it kind of looks similar. I wonder if it's the same. So maybe you weren't quite sure and you didn't know how to go from here to here, but you could always like distribute and then compare. So you can work from your answer forwards, but then if that's not working, you can also try to work backwards and say, I wonder if I can make their answer look like mine, because they look kind of similar. That might have helped. What else do we have? 45. 45, then 65. Anything in between 45 and 65? Directions, finding an equation of a tangent line. Ooh. Tangent line. What do we know about tangent lines? How'd I do that so fast? I'm halfway done. I plugged in the x one, I plugged in the y one. What do I need here? At x equals to 1/2. Oh, now I have to take a little bit of time and do a little bit of work because what is this guy? Quotient. But do you guys see it? Which rule to use? So then let's go up and do quotient rule. You guys tell me quotient rule and I'll fill in the appropriate pieces. Go. Pause. Do you guys put parentheses when you think bottom and top? You got to group them or else seals are going to die. Okay. Sorry, bottom D top. Oh, quotient has minus? Yes. Product has plus. Quotient has minus. Minus. Top. All over. Do you have to simplify to plug in 1/2? No. Do you really want to plug in 1/2 more than you have to? So I'm going to go ahead and simplify. I'm going to say x minus 1 minus x minus 1. Looks like it. The x's cancel. And I have negative 2. I have to plug in 1/2 to my derivative to make this. If it was a long answer, it'd be totally fine just to plug in the 1/2, leave it, and say, ha-ha, there he is. But if you're having to make it match, you should probably simplify that. 1 plus 3 equals 1/2 minus 1 is squared is a 4th, multiplied by the reciprocal, -8? Yeah. Times x minus 1/2. What if all the multiple choice answers have 1 itself? Then do that. Subtract the 3, distribute, combine like terms. You guys got it. You're fine. Okay, I heard 65. Anything in between 45 and 65? Last call. We okay? All right, 65. If I were you, if you have not paid attention this entire time, I would pay attention now. If I were you, if you have not paid attention the entire time, I would pay attention right now. This is a beautiful AP multiple choice problem. Okay? What rule? Don't tell me chain even though it's involved. It's a product rule. Chain is involved, but it's a product rule. X times. Just a couple of you might be like, ooh, I'll just bring the X in. No. This is a jail cell. He can't just pop in there just because he wants to. So, derivative, dy dx. Second. D first. Not so bad, right? Plus first. Okay. But that's all right. The way that I do product rule, the way I've taught you to do product rule, the messiness is at the end. So let's take a break, and let's deal with the messiness, triangle prime off to the side. Okay? Can't I say this is u to the 5th for u equal to 6x plus 1? How do I derive an outer and inner? First layer, then the second layer, right? Who's the first layer? So wouldn't his prime be 5u to the 4th? Wouldn't his prime be? Oh. So now, just for those of you that are more mental mathers, you would have brought down the 5, kept the inside the same, made it to the 4th power. Some of you forget that every now and then accidentally. Times u prime. What can I do with the 5 and the 6? Yeah, I can make it a 30 times the x in front of, but wait. Your life is going to be really sad if you don't remember my really cool trick of looking if anything's in common. Oh yeah, what's in common? If you didn't do that, life would not be very happy. And you would look at a multiple choice answer that looks quite similar, addition and lots of messiness, where one little thing has been changed. And you're like, oh, I must be wrong. They must be right. It looks close. Instead of realizing it could look very different after you simplify. After you simplify, what's left in here? 6x plus 1. We already talked about how 6 and 5 can be 30, and we took away all of those guys. Oh, that's easy. That's 36x plus 1. And this looks a whole lot different than it did a second ago, and yet it is perfectly correct. Dun, 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 dun. 30x plus 6x is 36x plus 1. Rewrote this guy. What else? On the review. $67? Okay, you guys, right now, I'm going to literally give like 30 seconds after 67. If there's not another question ready, we're moving on to the practice test because we have people with questions. Have your questions ready. Look ahead if you're lost or stuck. And if you're like, I got behind and didn't work on my test review last night, you could be in your homework spiral working. Or maybe you're just listening really carefully, trying to absorb anything and everything you can. Abby, what rule is this? Yeah. Quotient rule. Bottom. Just rewrite. D top. minus quotient, 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 top. We'll get back to it. All over bottom, squared. Don't forget to go back to it. What am I leaving off until later? The hard part. Can't we take it off to the side? Sure. Isn't this the same thing as x squared plus 1 to the 1/2? And couldn't I see this as a f equals u to the 1/2 where u equals x squared plus 1? And couldn't I take the derivative by bringing down the 1/2, keeping the u, making it to the negative 1/2 power times u prime? Now pause. Oh, where did I see this? Maybe that's what it was. Someone asked me a question regarding this, I think like yesterday and I think today, and like in zero period, and I think again, a lot of people ask me about something similar. Because a lot of you look at this and you're like, yay, I can combine stuff. Make it more obvious to yourself as to what this truly is. Meaning, this guy has an x squared plus 1 under a square root, all up and honest. Maybe honest isn't the right word of saying it. But without any other fractions or any other weirdness going on. But this guy has some issues, right? I have a 3 and an x and an x, which means 3x squared. But this guy is a square root, but he's in the denominator of just this little baby piece. Square root squared. Negative 1/2 says this piece right here, as though we were looking to take out something in common. Only this piece has a denominator. It's a complex fraction. But guys, how do we deal with complex fractions? How have we always dealt with them? Well, about conjugate, but don't we multiply by the little guy who's causing all the problems? Top and bottom? Nothing's changed. What's wrong, Patricia? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Ryan, too. Period 1, kids. Clutch. Nicely done. 3x squared. I forgot the squared because it's 3x and x. I said 3x squared, but I didn't write x squared. Ryan, I'm very proud of you. Good job. We have to distribute. And when we distribute, trying to make extra space is going to be awkwardly way over here in the corner. Oh, well. The first one, a square root, got multiplied by a square root. It's going to be 3 times x squared plus 1. The next piece, minus. The denominator takes them out, so we just have 3x squared. Then the bottom, we have x squared plus 1 to the 1 and a half. There's a whole one and there's a half one. There's a whole one and there's a half one as far as the powers. So x squared plus 1 to the 1 and a half, 3 halves. And then as you distribute, yeah, the 3x squared minus 3x squared, that cancels. And then the 3 times the 1, well, he's just chilling. Dun, 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 dun. Good question. Period 1 didn't like that one either. Anything else? Remember, I'm only giving 30 seconds. But the problem is there's going to be stuff like this in the multiple choice, so be practicing making it match. And that's why the practice test, it would be foolish not to do it even though it's bonus. Okay, any more review questions? Okay, I'm going to transition to practice test questions, but my 2 people that need to take the forever quiz, one of you can camp out the TA desk, another one of you come right there, just so you can see this computer screen. I'm going to pull it up, a version of the quiz, so you guys can take it over here. I'm pulling it up. You guys just have a half sheet of paper. Transitioning to the practice test. Okay. I'm pulling up number 10 on the practice test. If you guys haven't looked at it yet, take just a second to look at it now. Oh, multiple choice, right, Kevin? struggle. All right, guys, looking at number 10 on the board, I've given those of you that haven't tried it yet a chance just to peek at it. Does anybody see a chain rule? Does anybody see a chain rule? Kevin, there's a U, right? Can you see? Who's U? Kevin, I just made life so much easier. I rewrote. Before we ever learned, I told you guys, before we ever learned quotient rule, we learned that we could rewrite. T over 2 is the exact same thing as 1/2 t. Why am I rewriting it like this? So much easier. Now, if you do quotient rule, bottom d top minus top d bottom, derivative is 0, all over bottom squared, it should be the same thing as his u prime. I'm just trying to save you some work. What's the derivative? Hey, s prime, it's like a velocity. Anyway, what's the derivative of cosecant? Here you go, Kevin, u, right? Negative cosecant of u, which would be my t over 2, times cotangent of u, which would be my t over 2, times my u prime. And the only possible answer that matches that is, not there? But look, it was so close. Well, doesn't it look like they're trying to trick me? Like, that's the wrong derivative rule. That's the wrong derivative rule. That one's not a negative. That one doesn't have a 1/2. Now pause. Strategy. Strategy tomorrow. Sorry, Victor. Could you spend half an hour on one problem that you can't make match and not do half the test? Okay. So, Hannah, what if you spend a lot of time trying to make a match and it doesn't match? You should have skipped it a long time ago. Now, pause. My advice, if you do run out of time on the test, there's fewer than 20 questions. Giving you time, coming in early, etc., hopefully, if you remember. If I were you, if you don't see it match right away, I would star it. I would make an educated what I think it is based on what I just did, but then try to make it back to reevaluate. Does that make sense? If you can't make it match, I would star it. I would make the best choice that you can in 30 seconds based on what you think it should be and the answer choices that you have, and then hopefully make it back. Cool? Jaden. Yeah. Yes. Yes, they're asking for the second derivative. I know we did one of these either in bell work or in one of our examples, so if we run out of time, which I'm almost positive we're going to do, I'm sorry, bud, it's not letting me do it. You would have to take the derivative once with quotient rule. Simplify it as much as possible to make the second derivative simpler. Like you need to simplify that first derivative. So go for him first using the quotient rule. And once you have that quotient rule as simplified as possible, go again. Yeah. Second derivative. All right, guys. My work is shown on the practice test key. The test review answers are up in Google Classroom. I will be here for a little bit today, but not super long. So if you need me, come quick. 3:45. 3:45. Maybe in Porter Ranch at 4. But you guys can run around.